Got some NBA and some college basketball we've already gotten down on. The NBA game you guys touched on, and the line's starting to move against us. We jumped on the Miami Heat at +6 and +5.5, and also took them on the money line at +180, all the way down to +170. So obviously it had to do with information of players sitting that they look to take advantage of. But right now it looks like the market's moving back the other way, because I'm seeing like sixes out there now, even 6.5, 5.5 at the sharper shops. So yeah, it should maybe still be a good play. I released it. I like the Heat in that spot. I like them as home dogs. I did sprinkle the money line as well. We'll see how that turns out. In college basketball, it's mostly the added game. The only regular board games that we got down on, and I haven't released it because I'm kind of with you. I'm not too sure I want to fade Clemson here. They took 6 on Clemson. Right now it's at 4.5. So it's 6.5 actually is what they took that I got down on. Now it's 4.5. So it's a completely different bet, especially with 5 and 6 in college basketball. So I don't fault anyone now to look in the other way because, again, there's no 6.5s out there. But we also went under 134 at 133, all the way down to like 132.5 on Baylor Houston. So they really like that one under. That's obviously going to be one of them opposite public versus the betting syndicates. And rarely do they get out ahead and bet the unders this quickly. But because it's a zero-sum game, you have to at times if you see that inefficient number, because the public's going to bet this one over. By the time this tips off, 8 out of 10 recreational bettors will be on that over. Just look at the points both these teams are coming off of the last few games. Yeah. Finally, the rest is an added board where we have 306, 515, Arkansas Pine Bluff plus the 14 and 14.5, also under 155 in that game. And then 306, 503, Mississippi Valley State plus the 19.5, plus the 19.
Let's break it down. Cavs and T-Wolves. Right now, looking at the free WagerTalk live odds screen, I'm seeing Cleveland minus 9.5, juice in some spots. Total's been bet up to 230 in this one. And Minnesota coming off, I'll call it an epic fourth quarter against the Blazers on Saturday. They trailed the whole game and then complete domination down the stretch. Portland was up 84-71, late third quarter of that game. Minnesota put their foot down, 43-14 run to close out that contest, win and cover for the T-Wolves. Head coach Chris Finch, proud of my guys. One of my favorite wins of the year, no doubt about it. Everyone played well, came in and fought. Even when we couldn't score and things were going our way, I love the team spirit. That's certainly a positive sign. And when we look at Minnesota, since January 4th, they've got 6 losses. Those losses have come by 2 points, by 2 points, by 2 points, by 7 versus Cleveland, by 1 and by 2. They're in every game. Full season, they've been underdogs 11 times. 7-3-1 against the spread. They've been excellent in this role. Last 10 games, 8-2 straight up. They're playing good basketball right now. Now, as you mentioned, doesn't look like Anthony Edwards is going to play today. Mike Conley's dealing with a finger sprain. He's not, he's still very questionable. Julius Randle's not going to be going. He's going to miss until the All-Star break with an abductor strain. Dante DiVincenzo, he's out with a toe injury. So we've got Randle and DiVincenzo out, Edwards and Conley questionable. And obviously this is a line that says if one of those guys plays, I would expect to see some Minnesota money before tip-off. Cleveland, I love what they did at the trading deadline. Okay, DeAndre Hunter for Niang and LeVert, neither of whom was going to get much playing time in a competitive series in the postseason. That's a positive move, long-term. Short-term, well, let's see. They're 0-3 against the spread, their last 3, even though they won 2 of those 3 straight up. Kenny Atkinson, after the win, head coach Kenny Atkinson, after the win against Washington on Friday, quote, "We went through some stuff and we're all kind of tired in terms of the trading deadline. Told them in the locker room, a lot of teams lose this game. We got a heck of a team." And they do. But when a coach is telling us that his team's a little bit mentally tired, the All-Star break is coming just later in the week. And by the way, they're just 1-5 straight up last 6 as a single-digit favorite. They've been blowing out the bad teams, but not winning by margin against the better ones. I'm not convinced that Cleveland is the right side here. If I'm playing, it'd be Minnesota plus the points, even with the injuries. I think the T-Wolves give the Cavs a game, especially given their track record recently in hanging tough against everyone. So I'll look at Minnesota plus 9.5 as the big game breakdown for Monday, Prez.
Teddy Covers joining us, guys. We've got an incredible promotion. You could use it on Teddy or anybody else over at WagerTalk. 30-day all-access pass under $8 a day. That's $239. You get an all-access pass to any handicapper. Teddy, what do you got going for the clients tonight?
And well, the NBA's finally heating up. Prez, it took a little while this season, unfortunately, but we're 5-1 on the last 6, 83% run, 67% here in February, and we have a couple of plays up already in the association. We may add more, but you can get that. You can get them both together. 1 day all access on my page, wt.buzz/TC. And of course, Prez, you talked about the one special offer. Also want to give you another one. Sport 30 at checkout. Sport 50 at checkout. Darn it.
50.
Sport
Sport
50 bucks off
50,
NBA pass.
50.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Sport 50 at checkout will get you $50 off a 30-day NBA All Access pass. The NBA is heating up right now, and you're not going to get charged for the All-Star break. It's days where we have plays, so the 30 days will roll over post All-Star break. Take advantage. That's a good offer. Sport 50 at checkout gets you that NBA 30-day all access.
You got an Atlanta team who has beat this Orlando team twice in a row. They've won their last 2. They've won 3 of 4. Orlando has won, 2 games out of their last 5. Yet here they sit -5.5 favorites. How are you attacking this game?
Yeah, I mean, we got the 11:30 Eastern injury report here to work with, and Trae Young is listed as probable. So I would expect him to go tonight. And I'm a little surprised this line is still 5.5, like you said, Prez. My concern is having Young out there, but I do think he'll be out there. And if he is, I like the Hawks. You can obviously play this later in the day when you get more confirmation, although, sometimes they'll scratch guys 10 minutes before tip-off. You could always play an in-game line. You could also play the game the minute it starts, right? The in-game line is going to be the same right after tip-off, and you'll know that Trae Young is out there. So I really think that's a way to play NBA games nowadays that people don't talk about a lot, is like right at tip-off, even use the in-game line for the first 30 seconds. But I do like Atlanta in this spot, like it a lot better with Trae Young. It looks like he's playing. And you mentioned how the Magic are not playing good basketball. Well, that was the Hawks up until about a week ago. Atlanta had lost, 9 straight, I believe 8 or 9 straight. They've now won 3 of their last 4. Their only loss came by a single point against San Antonio, so they're now 5-0 against the spread, 7-1 ATS their last 8. And there is still value with Atlanta because, once again, I don't understand why they're getting 5.5 here. I think part of the reason is because for the last couple of years, they were the worst point spread team in the NBA. And, we talk about how, when financial markets bottom, sometimes it's a V, but normally it's a smoothing process. And I think we're getting that with the Hawks, and we will get some value with them going forward. I think they're in better current form, and the line is too high. Take a look at Atlanta as a live dog tonight.
But that is a big line, Steve. How should we attack this game?
Well, the big news tonight is it looks like Luka Doncic is supposed to be in the lineup for the first time in a Lakers uniform. Now, as of 11:30 a.m. Eastern, the injury report has him listed as questionable. It also has LeBron James listed as questionable. But people do expect Luka to make his debut tonight. So let's assume he's going to be in there. Once again, keep an eye on this. This is the late game at 10:40 Eastern. It's on ESPN National TV. Hard to imagine ESPN's going to be happy if Luka and LeBron are not on the court tonight. So I think they will be. And this is a situation where on the surface you're like, wow, that's going to be a focused, motivated spot in LA. They'll be rocking, maybe. So if you like the Lakers, maybe play them first half. But I'm actually going to lean Jazz here in this game. Take a contrarian tilt. Look, Utah could get blown out by 40. It could happen. And people always cry when a game gets blown out because they think it's a bad handicap. It's not. This game could go one of two ways. They could get blown out or they can hang and keep it close, and the Lakers could struggle with the new pieces at play. And I think that's actually the more likely outcome, is that LA struggles a little bit. And once again, winning and having to win by 13 or more are two different things. So yes, maybe the Lakers come out with some energy early here, but I like Utah full game plus the 13.5. And you also could look at the total here over 234.5. It's risen a little bit from the opener of 233.5. And I do think this new lineup will be a weaker defensive lineup. Doncic, not a great defender to start with, not fully healthy. And then on top of that, you just lost Anthony Davis, one of the best big men in the NBA, which helps your defense. So I think the defense will be a lot weaker. So if you want to stay away from the side, I would look at the total over 234.5 could be worth a look. Yeah, Houston right now, number one in some of the net rankings and different ratings. They always seem to creep up there and then underperform, obviously, in the NCAA tournament. Haven't gotten it done yet, but they always had their calling card of being a fantastic defensive team. And right now, really depending on which efficiency-adjusted rankings you look at, they're either 1 or 2. I have them second right now as the second best efficiency team in the country in defense. So they have a huge edge over Baylor, who's not even top 60. These are two very good offensive teams, both top 20 in efficiency. What's interesting, though, is the pace of play. Obviously, Houston plays extremely slow. They're one of the 5 slowest half-court teams, again, in the country this season. Baylor almost in the bottom 300 as well. So this game should be extremely low-scoring and slow. The total has actually gone from 131.5 up to 132. And I think one of the reasons is because, as I mentioned, these are two very good offensive teams. But once again, let's not overthink it. No pun intended. Neither team takes a lot of shots from three-point range. They get more scoring down low. They both play extremely slow, and they are still two good defensive teams. And I think Houston at home especially will dictate the tempo and really slow things down. Even though it's ticked up a bit, the only way I would play this total would be under 132 between Baylor and Houston. This is your ESPN game tonight at 9 Eastern.
So I'm looking forward to this tournament. I have high hopes. I'd rather see this than the All-Star game. I hope it takes off. And I hope next year they come back with a 5th team, maybe comprised of all those other nations that weren't invited to this tournament. But as far as how to bet it, well, it's 8 days, and they're going to cram a bunch of games into 8 days, round robin. The top 2 teams will meet in the final. Canada is the favorite, USA behind them, and then Sweden, and then Finland. I actually think that the Swedes and the Finns are going to come in with a bee in their bonnet. They are not going to like being playing second fiddle to the North American teams. And these teams have talent. I mean, Sweden has won a bevy of gold medals over time. They can compete with the likes of Canada. And my concern with Team Canada is they have the weakest goaltending trio in the tournament, I believe, with Binnington, Hill, Sam Montembeault. Their starter is likely to be Aiden Hill, who ranks 24th in goals against average in the NHL and 30th in save percentage. You look at his counterpart for Sweden in the opening game in Montreal, and you got Jacob Markstrom, the former Calgary Flame and former Canuck, with a goals against average of 2.20. He ranks in the top 10. So that's 4th in the NHL, his goals against average, and top 10 in save percentage. Save percentage is probably the more key statistic there. I think the underdog's live here. Neither of these teams are going to have time to gel or practice or get on the same page. And you're going to give me the team with the better goalie and give me 1.5 goals. I'm going to look at Sweden plus 1.5 goals in the opening game of the Four Nations. And as a Canadian, I'm going to hope that Canada wins it in a shootout or by 1 goal. Well, I mentioned the trade that sent Anthony Davis to Dallas. There's quite a few conspiracy theories floating around the internet about this one. And I know Prez doesn't like conspiracy theories, but it's really tough to wrap your head around why anybody would trade Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis. And there is speculation that the ownership might have plans that don't involve winning on the court. And now that the debut for Anthony Davis was highly successful. He looked great in a Mavs uniform. So they go on that emotional roller coaster of that high to a crashing down to an emotional low when they find out now he's got an abductor injury and he's going to miss the next month. And then you got a Kings team that's battling for the play-in. These two teams are neck and neck in the play-in. And the Kings are 100% healthy. Nobody on the injury report. You got Dallas with Davis out. You got P.J. Washington questionable. And you got Max Christie questionable. And speaking of Christie, the look on Jason Kidd's face in the press conference when they announced the trade reminded me of Chris Christie in the press conference where Trump was announcing that he was running for the Republican National Convention, and Chris Christie looked like a hostage. That same expression on Jason Kidd's face. So I'm all about the Kings +1 here. I think it's just a disastrous emotional spot for the Dallas Mavericks. Well, you nailed it, Prez. I think the Celtics might be mailing it in tonight. However, I'm going to look at the player prop market. I will mention last Monday I came on this show. I gave out Ammon Thompson over 21.5 assists and points. He went off for a triple-double. And I'm going to look at Andrew Wiggins here, and I'll be honest with you. My intention here was this is going to be Andrew Wiggins' debut for the Heat. Often guys making their debut, you want to fade them. I wanted to see what kind of number the books were offering. But when I seen a number of 15.5, I'm not fading that. That looks a little bit low to me, to be honest. Wiggins scored 25 in his last game for the Dubs. He averaged over 19 points per game in the month of January for the Dubs. Yet we already saw Jimmy Butler go off for 25 in his debut for the Warriors. Now Wiggins at home against the Boston Celtics in a focus spot with potentially the Celtics mailing this in. And you're going to give me a line of 15.5. I'll go Wiggins over 15.5 points. And I will point out, Prez, number one all-time at WagerTalk with player props in the NBA. Number one overall profit in the calendar year of 2024 with NBA. So I happen to know what I'm talking about from time to time when it comes to the association.
This is a client bet in college basketball. It is Clemson minus 4.5 versus North Carolina. And I am not buying this whole letdown argument here for Clemson after beating Duke. This is a North Carolina team. They're not a good team this season. Clemson's a good team, not North Carolina, and I don't see them looking past anyone at this point. North Carolina has proven it just can't be trusted in the spot, which is why the spread is where it is, and North Carolina, it finds themselves as a dog. I'm expecting another strong performance from Clemson, and I think they win by close to double digits. Take Clemson minus 4.5 against North Carolina, and that's a client play.